morning, everybody. Today is Thursday morning. It's 8:01. I'm on Facebook Live. Had some problems a couple days ago trying to get on Facebook Live, but I've got a strong signal now, so I'm able to get on here. I want to thank all of you guys that are praying for my dad this morning. About an hour from now, he's going to be undergoing back surgery in Franklin County, Ohio. So thank you for all of you, those of you that are praying for him. And I just wanted to come on here for a few minutes and talk about a topic. I don't usually do this, but I've seen some friends post on Facebook asking the questions as far as why do bad things happen to good people, that sort of things. Like why does God allow sin, pain, suffering, all those things in the world? And so I wanted to take a few minutes and just talk about that briefly. The way I look at it, a lot of this is going to be, some of this is going to be scriptural, directly from the Bible. So this is from a Christian perspective. Some of it's going to be some speculation on my part, and I'll explain where that comes into play. But anyway, the way I look at it is throughout Scripture, God is presented as a parental figure. The Bible talks about God being our Father who art in heaven. That's how Jesus teaches us to pray to God, to refer him to our Father. And so God is like a father figure. He created us in his image, male and female. Mankind was created in his image. So that's all of us. And so the word Abba, which refers to God, literally translates to daddy. So it's not just a case of him creating us and then just backing off and letting things happen and leaving us to our own defenses. He's like a father, not just a father that provides the genetic material to create us, but he's like a daddy that actually cares for us. And you think about your own relationship. If you're a parent and you have children, or maybe if you don't have small children, you can think of your relationship with your parents. Hopefully you have a good one with your father, with your parents, and hopefully that relationship will help you to identify with what I'm trying to explain about God being our Father and being a daddy. But anyway, you think about a parent's relationship with his children, and you realize that a parent wants what's best for his children. And when as a parent myself, I can't imagine ever wanting anything bad to happen to my child. I want to provide the best I can for her, the best of my ability. And so that's how I think of a relationship between a father and a child. And that's how God is with us. He didn't just leave us to our own defenses. And so when bad things happen to us, it's not that God wants those things to happen necessarily. But there are consequences to living in a world that's full of sin, pain, and suffering, that those things are going to happen. And so those are things that we can't avoid. But as I'm going to talk about here in a couple minutes, there is good news about that ultimately. Now, you look in Genesis, it talks about God created the heavens and the earth, and everything was good. He created the stars, the moon, the sun, and it says it was good. He created the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, the animals on the land, and it was good. And then he created mankind in his own image, male and female, and it was good. So God created everything to be good. He didn't create things to be bad. He didn't intend originally for the earth to be filled with pain and suffering and disease and all these things. And so he created us in his image. Everything was good, and he put it in this garden on earth. So earth was meant to be a paradise. And eventually that's what heaven is going to be, I believe, is what God originally intended the earth to be. And so, as a parent does, think about with your children. When they're small, you teach them right from wrong. You provide for them to the best of your ability. You give them food, shelter, clothing, the stuff that they need. And then beyond that, you try to give them, try to meet their not only their needs, but their desires. You try to give them the things they want as well, to the best of your ability. And so I believe it's the same way. He created the garden to be perfect, and put us in it and said, this is yours. Have fun. Do whatever you want. And he had a relationship with Adam and Eve. And then along came the serpent in the garden and kind of messed things up. And And so that's where sin came into the world. As parents, we have rules for our children, and those rules are for a reason. My dad always told me, as long as you live in my house, you'll follow my rules. And I remember as a child, when I was young, I thought, that's not fair. When I get older, I'm not going to do that with my kids. I'm going to let them do what they want. Well, now that I'm older, I'm a parent myself, I understand Dad's reasoning for that, and I appreciate it a lot more. And so we have to think about God in that sense also, that He's a parent who has rules for us, and they're not because He's angry at us or He wants things for us that aren't good, but He wants the best for us, and He knows what's best for us. And so He outlines those rules and tells us what to do. And just as we correct our children when they're living under our roof, when we make mistakes, there's consequences for those. Now, when they grow up and your children get out on their own, they're going to be making their own decisions. So when they're living in your house, under your roof as children, you want to give them guidance and prepare them for making those decisions on their own. Then when they get out on their own, they have what we call free will, which is what God gave us. And so when they get out on their own, they're going to be making those decisions on their own. So you're hoping as a parent that when your children are young, you're successful in giving them enough guidance and teaching that when they get out on their own and make those decisions, they'll make them wisely. And so I believe God is the same way with us. He teaches us right from wrong. We learn from our mistakes as we grow up. Mom and Dad says, don't go out and play in traffic. Well, if we disobey and go out and play in traffic, there's going to be natural consequences for that. We might, there might be a car that comes at us. And, of course, Mom and Dad's not going to leave us to our own defenses and just say, hey, you get hit by a car, ha-ha, it's your own fault. God's not like that. That's a popular misconception. God does not laugh at our calamities and our problems and stuff. He wants what's best for us. But there are natural consequences for not doing what He wants us to do and for not making the right decisions. So, along those lines, when we make those decisions as children, there are natural consequences for that. And it's the same way with us in our relationship with God. There's natural consequences for disobeying God. We go back to Genesis and we look at Adam and Eve. They made that mistake. God put the tree in the garden. And now some people will ask, why did God put the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden in the first place? If He didn't want Adam and Eve to have it, why even create it? Why put it there? Well, this is speculation on my part. This isn't, I haven't found this anywhere in the Bible, but I've been thinking a lot about it. And I'm thinking that maybe God never intended for that tree to be completely ignored. I think that God probably eventually was going to share that tree with Adam and Eve when they were old enough and mature enough to be able to properly understand the consequences of knowing good and evil. It's like your children. There are things that are beautiful and wonderful for adults to engage in, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I think you can figure out what I'm talking about, that aren't appropriate for children. And so along comes the serpent and says, well, why is God telling you can't do that? He does it. He knows good and evil. He knows he's obviously had fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He doesn't want you to have that knowledge. What's He hiding from you? Well, it's the same thing with children today. There are things that aren't appropriate for them until they're older. And the serpent and the world today, I think, deceives our children the same way. They want our children, they deceive our children into wanting things that they're not ready for yet. And so that's why we have to protect our children from those things. Now, Adam and Eve, they made the mistake of when the serpent came along to tempt them, they gave into that temptation. They broke the daddy's rule, basically. And so there was natural consequences for that. Now, I'm doing this all off the top of my head from memory. And I don't have my Bible open in front of me or anything, so I'm not going to be quoting from a lot of scriptures and stuff. But God created all these things, and they were good. And so there were natural consequences, and God, like I said before, doesn't want them to have to live in a world of pain and evil and suffering like we do today. And so the good news for us is that this world that we live in, this isn't the end. We want a world where there is no pain and suffering and disease and all this stuff. You hear people asking all the time, why is God being so unfair? Why did God create a world with pain and suffering and all these things in it? Well, that was our own consequences. That was the consequences of our own actions. And sometimes people will blame Adam and Eve for that. Well, I wouldn't have done that. Don't fool yourself. Every one of us is a sinner, myself, yourself included. There's not a human being that's alive today that would not have made that same mistake that Adam and Eve did. So don't try to fool yourself. We would have done the same thing. And so the good news, though, is that there's a place where we're going to have the things that we're desperately wanting, the world without pain and suffering, and it's called heaven. Now, the catch is that heaven, we want it to be perfect, right? No pain, no suffering, no strife, no arguing, no fighting, no war, all these things. Well, if we're going to live in a place like that, guess what? We have to follow Daddy's rules. Otherwise, we're going to be introducing pain and suffering and wars and fighting and all those things. And so that's why God can't allow everybody, per se, into heaven. We have to first decide that we're going to follow Daddy's rules. We're going to live in heaven, and we're going to follow the rules, and we're going to keep it heaven. And so while we're here on earth, we have to make that decision to that we're going to keep heaven. And that's why God, there's, I hate to break it to you, but not everybody's going to heaven. The Bible talks about how the road to heaven is narrow, and not everybody finds it. And it's a straight and narrow way, and a lot of people, it's very easy to get off the track and stuff. We have to get back on the track. And so the good news is that it's there, but we have to accept it. Now, another good news is that it's not too late for any one of us. As long as you're still breathing oxygen, as long as your brain is still functioning and able to think and to process thoughts rationally and to think things through, it's not too late for any of us. We've still got that opportunity to accept, that we want to do that. So there's probably a lot more I'm missing, but I'm doing all this live and I don't want to go on too long. But I just wanted to touch base on that for a little bit, explain a little bit my own thoughts on why there's pain and disease and suffering in this world, and the good news about how eventually we can get to a place where that won't exist anymore. And so just try to think of it as, a relationship between a father and his children, just as you would, as a parent with your children, or to your own parent. Again, as I said at the beginning of the video, thank you to all those that are praying for my dad. He's having surgery here in about 45 minutes on his back. So I appreciate those prayers for him. And thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to ask them in the comment section below. And like I said, I don't usually do this kind of video on here, but I just got off work and I got the Facebook Live up, and it's working for me today. So I wanted to answer that question that I saw on Facebook, posted by one of my Facebook friends. So anyway, have a wonderful day, everybody. Hope everybody's doing great, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.